September 14, 2021. And Chantel, I'll let you do roll call.
I'll actually take over. And Commissioner Bernstein,
Here.
Commissioner Fuder,
Put here.
She's
Linda?
here, but she's on mute.
Commissioner Marshall,
Here.
Commissioner Robin,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Soto,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Craig,
Here.
Chairperson Gassan.
Here.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Evelyn?
I was just going to say, Nancy, would you like to introduce our new face to the group?
Well, yay, we finally got a new executive admin assistant, and she'll be our new Measure J secretary, and her name is Evelyn, and she came from the city of Indio, where she was on several commissions. Or was the secretary of the commission. Is that right, Evelyn?
That's right.
Great.
Hello, Evelyn.
Fabulous. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right. I guess we should try to do the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll see if we can do it all together. I'll kick us off real quickly. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to
to the flag
of the United
of the United States of America,
for which it
and
stands,
stands
One nation, under God,
Indivisible, liberty and justice.
liberty
justice for
and justice for all.
We're all.
Okay, for our people that are joining us, we really butchered it this time. Anyway, we have good intentions. All right. Do we have an acceptance or motion to accept today's agenda?
I so moved.
I like it.
Oh,
Second.
Okay. All in favor of today's agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay. We are going to move on to election of chair and vice chair for our commission. This happens at the start of each sort of fiscal or calendar year for the city.
Do we
And
need to approve the minutes?
that will happen after the election, if you look at
Okay.
the agenda. So yeah, the minutes will happen after that, and the new chair will take over at that point.
I would
So,
like to make a nomination.
okay, nominations are now open for the office of chair.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Bernstein.
Okay, I will second that nomination. Any other nominations for chair?
That's great.
Okay. See no other options for chair without objection, the nomination, I'm looking at the script here, sorry. We'll just simply declare the nominee is elected by unanimous consent. So Commissioner Bernstein, welcome as chair of Measure J.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We will open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to make a nomination.
Okay, Commissioner Craig.
I'd like to nominate, I don't want to mispronounce her name, Naomi, or am I pronouncing it wrong?
No, it's great. I love the short A in Naomi. Thank you.
I am going to second that. Great minds think alike.
I know.
Okay, any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, with that being said, we will simply declare Naomi as Commissioner Soto as our nominee by unanimous consent. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
Commissioner Soto, you are vice chair.
Thanks.
So I am going to hand over the gavel to Commissioner Bernstein, and he will be taking over. And it's been wonderful. And of course, I'm still here for a bit. And we'll continue on.
Can I
Okay.
just say,
Good job.
Jim, I think you did a great job. And I'm very pleased that you were the chairman the last couple of seasons. And I know I did a great job, so I thank everybody in advance. Thank you very much.
I'd like
Well
to
said,
thank-
well said.
Yeah, same.
Thank you both. Okay, we move to the approval of the minutes. And like a motion for,
A
we have
motion,
2 minutes to approve, the 15th and of July and August 19th.
Yeah.
Did you have a comment, Linda?
Well, I think it was our emergency meeting and it said no action taken, but my memory was we did approve and designate some money for the survey monkey. Did we not?
that was on the August 19th meeting.
Mhm. We talked about it and then Nancy was going to do the research and then
I believe that's in 3A, under the action.
Was that up to $1,000?
Yes,
that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah,
That is there.
okay.
that is there. Do we have a motion to approve?
A motion,
I second.
Okay, motion approved to approve both minutes from the July 15th, 2021 meeting and the August 19th. Actually, it says 2020, but it's 2021 meeting. Yes, okay. This time now, public comment. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Measure J Commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Although the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are assigned for each speaker. Do we have any speakers?
We do. We received 3 requests for public comments, and I will call upon Miss Ellen Goodman. I'll unmute her now.
Great, thank
Goodman,
you,
can you-
Evelyn.
You're welcome. Your 3 minutes begin.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ellen Goodman, and I'm a resident of Palm Springs. It's good to see everybody. I am also a Parks and Recreations Commission member. Tonight, I will be speaking as the individual who sits on the Dog Park Committee. I will not be speaking on behalf of the entire Parks and Recs Commission, and also a user of the dog park. And so it's that time of the year when we are starting to gather all of our information to appeal to Measure J and work with the commission on recommendations to City Council for the use of community dollars and for specifically the dog park for a resurface and redesign. And our goal is around sustainability. And we have a few other people who are online tonight who will also speak. We've pulled together a group of volunteers. We've been surveying the users of the dog park. We have 132 completed surveys, unique users of the dog park, and 82% of them are Palm Springs zip codes. 84% of them are year-round residents. And this really kind of boils down to individuals who might have social or economic barriers to other opportunities in the city and really use the dog park, not just for their furry friends, but for themselves as a social experience in our community. So we will be coming to you with a more formal request. We're kind of planting a seed that as you start to consider those community dollars, that this year that the dog park is considered. I think we've done very well at having other items and other parks done. And it's been since 2013-14 since the dog park has had really any substantial work. So I'll end with that and thank you again.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and call upon, let's see. It was Lisa Rotunmo. Lisa, do you hear us? Lisa, can you hear us? Okay,
Does she have to be let in or is she already in?
she's admitted. I'll go ahead. She might be on mute. I'll go ahead and move on to Mr. Tim Giuliani for now. Mr.
Hi
Giuliani,
there.
can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you have 3 minutes. You may begin.
Okay, very good. Hi, my name is Timothy Giuliani, and I've been a resident here in Palm Springs for over 20 years and going to the dog park probably for the past 10 years or so. Originally, I went with the mindset that I was going solely for the benefit of the dogs, whether it be for their socialization or exercise. But I've come around to realize what a vital daily gathering place this is for so many of our residents to get out and socialize with other people whom they have the same interests. Over 76% of those we recently surveyed indicated they went to the dog park for their own benefit of socializing. And over 54% of those are over 55, which I presume to be retired. And of that, 84% are full-time Palm Springs residents, of whom which over 85% spend at least 30 minutes to over an hour of their time every day. I know I personally have made a point to look after a woman in her 80s that comes to the park every morning with her dog and we play ball. And I know that's most likely to be her only interaction with other folks that particular day. And I do get concerned with her when she doesn't show up. So I do feel it's very vital that we spend this resources necessary to ensure the cleanliness and safety as well as the sustainability of our dog park for both residents and their dogs. We need a park with sustainable ground cover so as not to have to close completely down for 4 to 6 weeks every year, leaving many of these people without a social outlet. And we need a daily maintenance team that will be held accountable for keeping the park clean and safe. Wider sidewalks, a complete drainage system, less rock, interactive components for dogs to play and socialize, more shade and comfortable permanent seating are just some of the things the dog park desperately needs. We appreciate your support in this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and call up on Miss Lisa Rotunmo. Lisa, can you hear us? Lisa, are you there? She is unmuted. Oh, there. Lisa? I do apologize. She's in the meeting, however, we cannot hear her. I'm not sure whether you'd like to move on and call upon her at a further time, maybe after a specific item.
Yeah, let's come back and after new business, we can revisit and see if.
Can I ask, is she muted or does she not know it?
no,
She
she's
is not muted, and she is actually a part of this meeting right now.
not-
Maybe after this, we can explain the survey that's going out, that they could complete the survey. I'm sorry, application.
Yeah, yeah, we have that under the old business, but we can also mention it as well. We do have a survey that will be going out.
Application.
Application, an application, not a survey, an application for Measure J projects that will be going out in October, I believe. And we'll have approximately 5 to 6 weeks to be filled out. So we will be informing everybody, the other commissions certainly of that, and the city will be putting it out there, and we'll be discussing that a little bit later in the meeting. So next we move to welcome and comments from Measure J Chair, which I guess is me now. So thank you. And thank you especially again to Jim and Sid for leading the commission for the past couple of years. It's very much appreciated. I was going to say anyway, but I actually feel like we're in the start of a real year now, although it's still Zoom. It seems like we'll be meeting regularly. Certainly the budget results are good. And I'm excited that the city council is going to have a visioning session that we'll be able to have some input on. So hopefully we'll be able to get back on track with Measure J business now. So now we'll move to new business, Measure J update, budget update.
Good evening, commissioners. Nancy Polly, I just wanted to let you know, this is still a draft. We have the audit coming up. The auditors are starting in 2 weeks. We should have the final results by November. This will be updated going forward. We'll be starting with the new year budget to actuals. The sales tax comes in 2 months behind. So this reflects of the last sales tax collected. We still have interest income to include in this. So it looks like we're going to be over about 8 to 9 million than we projected. Any questions at this time?
I have a question. So, so once you do that, we will then revise the projected budget for 21, 22. Because it's already it looks like the increase in revenue from the previous year is 1.6 higher than it was last time.
Yes, it was, so as of, you look at the bottom, through June 30th, it's 17.7 over 14.8. So that's about 2.9 million over prior years. Then once the audit is completed, we come to you with the final numbers, and then we move those and roll those, any additional money on the top until the unexpended prior year reallocated.
Oh, that's good news. Good news for Measure J and for the city. Are there any questions? Okay. So
Naomi, is it your birthday tomorrow? Or is it next month?
It's next month.
Oh, well, we're going to
Oh,
celebrate.
wait, no, it's November. We moved the November
Oh,
one 2 days.
Okay, well, we'll start celebrating a couple months early.
Okay, we move on to 2B, consideration of submitting priorities, areas of focus for the city council visioning session. And if you saw in the packet, there was information on what the city is doing and a form that we are to fill out. Oops. Should I have a public comment? Okay, yep, I forgot we want to ask, before we do that, return to the public comment that was not available to see if she is now available. Evelyn?
She is now available, and I'll give her a call now.
While we're waiting, it's kind of unfortunate that this form will be due prior to the applications that we're sending out publicly.
Yes.
You know, I'm probably not supposed to talk. This is Ellen. But I'm curious, if you're sending surveys out to the city, to residents, will you just be accepting information from anyone? In the past, it's always, it has been commissions or community groups or HOAs, but an individual could come with an idea or project. Is that what you're thinking?
So the answer, because we discussed this previously, and we'll be discussing it later, is that the application will be going out to the public and to commissions. I believe the original applications, and Commissioner Marshall was part of the original Measure J, can speak to this. The original applications did go out to the general public. So we want to try and get as much as possible into this process.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to answer your question, it did go out to individuals.
Yeah, and these are specifically for community initiated projects. This is a specific pot of money of Measure J funds, not all of our Measure J funds.
So we do not have the public comment. She has decided to skip. So we will move into back to the consideration of submitting priorities, areas of focus for the city council visioning session. And yes, I agree. It's unfortunate that they're asking us to do this before we've had input from the community. However, I think we could incorporate that into our recommendations that one of our priorities is to get the public input into additional projects.
And would this be just for our $1 million community projects only?
Visioning statement is for all of Measure J. The visioning session is asking for information from all of Measure J. Does
So it
everyone-
could be any of our staff recommended or approved or potentially approved projects that staff has given us.
So I think this is Joel, sorry, the Measure J Commission priority matrix is more for the commission to look back at all the projects we've ever done and everything we've been involved in and kind of look forward to see where the commission wants to go. I mean, it would be nice to have the list of projects that the community might want, but those are really specific, and the matrix is really more broad, general. As a commission, where do you want to go? What do you want to see the city do? If you get into the weeds, essentially projects, it's not really what the matrix is for. And Nancy can correct me if I'm wrong, but really, I think that the city manager wanted input from all the commissions and see what their vision is of the city and what you want to take to the council. So it's really to look inwards, not necessarily look outwards to the community, what type of projects. And that's sort of, I think, the premise of the matrix and what you should be doing with this particular form.
So more of a 50,000 foot overview then, Joel?
So yeah, from my understanding, yes. If you get into the weeds, this is not what this is for. It's not to get input for the park that needs a redesign or for sidewalks or anything like that. It's what you as a commission want to do in the future and what you see your role with the city.
Yeah, I believe is the way the city manager presented it to us initially was that the city council is going to be trying to set policy from which we can move forward. And they wanted to see what our vision of that should be so that they could then see if that works with them and then direct and ideally allow us some more freedom to move forward.
That said, and this might run counter to the guidance that we just heard from Joel. Thematically, I think that the over-the-shoulder look at the projects that we had formally approved, but no action ever, no spending occurred because of the projects were wholesale suspended. I think that thematically, seeking to reactivate those because they continue to be valid needs is a worthwhile theme for the visioning.
I'd agree with that.
I would agree. I would agree that also the idea of getting community input in general is something which is an area of focus that it's ongoing and it should be a priority for us going forward. I think there's not been enough of that. And I think if you look at some of the major accomplishments of Measure J in the last few years, which would be, I guess, the fire station and the downtown park, those are not necessarily community-driven projects. And so I think the idea of having a community-driven focus for Measure J going forward is key, at least from what I understand from several of you.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that, or at least have some type of kind of understanding as to how our projects impact or directly affect community lives, and thinking, yes, the fire station was a great need. It looks great, it is an accomplishment, but how are people feeling that every day? I think is something I think about a lot in terms of the projects that we're looking to fund next. So I think community input and also, community experience more broadly is something that I would love to kind of see incorporated when we're looking at some of these projects that are brought to us.
I agree with that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, so if if I had to, in how we address this in priorities, I also would suggest the idea of the 5-year plan that we have looked at is a priority for us in terms of setting that going forward. I know that came up at city council meeting as, how can we do a 5-year plan if we don't have agreed on policies? But I think that's the point of the 5-year plan, is to come up with something that we are all working towards. And if we sort of combine that with what works for the community and what has a more direct impact on the community at large, then I think it's a more effective use of Measure J funds going forward. And especially long-term, if at the point when Measure J has to be renewed, because that's a voted upon measure. And, quite honestly, I think people will react more to things that are tangible and affect their daily lives as opposed to things they may not have. Commissioner Robin, did you also want to talk about the communication issue and the importance of that?
Yes, yeah, good insertion point for that, Chair Bernstein. Everyone, I was hoping to get some notes circulated so that we could have the detailed long form available to everybody. So if you can bear with me a little bit as I try to paraphrase. We had some conversations among the communication subcommittee that effectively is a recap of what has or hasn't happened from month to month to month. And as this relates to the city council meeting coming up, the visioning meeting, we think that it would be worthwhile to try and insert into the matrix in the form that it's given, insert into the matrix some frustrations that we're all well aware of, but the city council might not be, and a few specific changes that we would propose, which is anticipated in the matrix form itself. So the simple recap, if you will, is that at a subcommittee level and very probably at the commission level, there is a real frustration that almost nothing has happened for over 2 years, despite the efforts at the commission level to work with Amy Blaisdell and the city to work within the boundaries of the process to get social media postings, basic collateral distributed and mailed or in other form reaching the community at large. And we did have David Reedy approval for funding that was going to be acted on. The COVID interruption erased everything, but there's been no pickup other than the continued effort that we all understand, but we don't think the city council understands that. And if, I guess it's fair to say, if they did understand that, they wouldn't be satisfied, and neither are we. Second, there's been no dialogue with city council, and that the last substantive conversation outside of city manager and staff was the approval of projects that were inevitably suspended. So we have a problem of flow through working within the city process. We have no dialogue or substantive interaction with city council. And the impact on this is, as we've been wringing our hands over, we don't think the public understands Measure J. We don't think the public hears or knows about the efforts and successes of Measure J. And there doesn't seem to be evidence that city council recognizes the interrelationship of Measure J as a funding mechanism and a public policy initiative that works and enables important things like downtown parks and fire stations. That impact is not known or recognized by the public at large from our perspective, from my perspective. And as Commissioner Bernstein described, when it becomes inevitable that there's a move to establish a successor bond offering for what is now Measure J, this absence of outreach and absence of communication probably is a good indicator that the community won't know why they're being asked to fund the tax. All right, so with that overview that we're sensitive to collectively, think that there are 3 insertion points within the matrix that are necessary or that are useful, and for us to work this out if it's described properly through my notes. First of all, we think that there should be I'm suggesting my words for our discussion, that we modify the charter for Measure J to establish formally that there is a minimum $1 million in annual funding for commission-directed community projects. Formulaically, that $1 million could be a lesser of $1 million or X% of revenue annually. But we think that it's important to have that mechanism in place so that it's not a handshake or an understanding that won't necessarily survive year over year. And the result of that will be more slow throughput of Measure J funds. Secondly, I think it's essential that we formalize that there's an annual marketing budget every year, and that minimum is, I'll circle a number 25,000 for discussion, but that has as a sentiment, there has to be something that is automatic, because you can't do anything without a minimum funding mechanism. And then lastly, we should, I don't have actionable words. I have complaining words that we probably all share, that just, and this is within the framework of the matrix, we're doing our part. We're trying hard. We spend a lot of time on words and efforts and dialogue, and a lot of work from staff to give us the opportunity to digest and make recommendations. But as we've seen, the results of our efforts with staff has been almost next to nothing for community outreach, and almost next to nothing for a workable process with City Council. So we find ourselves at the visioning meeting. In order to change all that, let's at least call out the frustrations that we have, that is wrapped by a commission's good faith efforts to work within a framework that we have been told to follow. And end of my treatise.
Now, one of the things I did want to mention, I agree that everybody feels frustrated, not only this commission, but other commissions. But as far as the marketing and stuff, most of that had been done due to COVID. I think in the past, we've done a great job. We put together cards that we have mailed out. We had at the booth at the company picnic. We did something at the Village Fest. So I think most of this marketing and stuff has been due to the COVID. And we can continue to send the mailers out if we want to. I know we have cards that we've made up a couple of years ago. We could always revise those and send them out.
If I can just add, there's also been an issue. We've had conversations with the city, with Amy and the city on social media and other efforts almost every month this year. And with no disrespect to Amy, because I don't think this is her decision, but she hasn't been given the go-ahead to move forward with at least promoting within her mechanisms what has been done. And part of what my concern, just, if I can insert this, is that the next big promotion is going to be the downtown park, which the city will make a big deal about in October. And so the public now is going to think this is what Measure J funds are used for. And the fact is, we've had shade structures, we've had new things done at James and Jesse, new floors, things that are important for the community. And I think this is added to the frustration, is that we don't have a budget, but we also don't have any there's no focus or understanding of the importance of the marketing and social media. Is that fair?
And adding to that, Nancy, responding to your point, I think I used the words next to none. Other than that, it was the materials that you and your colleagues helped us that effectively was things that when a commissioner went to a meeting or went to a booth, the commissioner could hand something out. And what Commissioner Bernstein is describing is something that was much more broad-based and has a social media strategy that we thought would have a critical outreach that hasn't occurred despite meetings and despite continuous dialogue.
Now I'm looking at last year's budget for I don't have 21, 22 in front of me, but you have spendable money in communication and marketing. You have a budget of $20,000.
Do we still have that available to use now?
I'll have to check and see. Let me see. I'm looking at.
So just to clarify, we did meet with Amy and their then agency to create something, and which would have been out of that budget, I believe. And they ended up, I think, not renewing the contract for the creative team that was putting it together, and the project ended. So there probably is the money, but I just to correct it, I don't know that it's so much about the 25,000 as understanding that there's a need to have marketing and social media with some expenses on an ongoing basis.
And I think what both of you are probably trying to say, Commissioner Bernstein, or Chair Bernstein and Commissioner Robin, is that the matrix is probably a good opportunity for the commission to put down what they think should happen in the future. I mean, and that's the form that you will use to express what Commissioner Robinson just said. So I believe, what you're saying.
I think we want to operationalize our marketing goals. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about our marketing goals over the last couple of years, but in collaborating with the city, it hasn't been able to be executed for various reasons. So as we move forward, like that would be, I think, I don't know, maybe like a new priority or area of focus.
Well, if you look at the critical factors for success, they have both critical organizational changes needed and process improvements. And that would sort of cover it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think that's a good spot.
Could I also ask Nancy or Chantel for our next meeting, could you find out, or even Evelyn, about the piece that I seem to be the only one that's seen it on Channel 17 about what Measure J has been doing? And it was a PSA, and I think I'm the only one that said he saw it. But could you find out and have us be able to see it at the next meeting?
So even though we're not talking about social media, I will bring that up. I did raise that with Amy Blaisdell. She was supposed to send it to me to send out to the commission. And that did not happen. It was not the full version that they planned to do, but it was a pared down version because they didn't have the company hired any longer. So, but again, this is part of the problem.
I know, and I was filmed. I missed the fact that I had my big moment on screen. Thank you.
I would like to interject. It is like I'm kind of new in the loop, so I don't know what all you have been going through. I'm hearing a lot of a repeat. We had great frustration with the city supporting what we thought should be a better promotion of the accomplishments of Measure J. And I even remember, and I think Sid was actually helping me with this way back when we had posters at the tent, and we were scavenging because the city didn't have any. And it was like, there's never been as much support, I think, as there needs to be. Comment on that one. Also, talk about interaction with the city council. When I was on there were two representatives from the city council that we had. It was the outreach for Measure J. And we would have a meeting with those two representatives and David Reddy, and there were the chair, vice chair, and one other member of the commission. Are we doing anything like that still? And who are our contacts at City Council for the Measure J Commission?
So they, if I can answer, we were told that they eliminated the city council liaisons to the commissions. So it was city council person Holstage, who's then mayor, was our liaison, but they don't have a liaison any longer, which is a problem. And they canceled both of our 2020, we were supposed to have an annual joint session with city council. They canceled it in 2020. I guess since I was early in the pandemic, but for some reason they also canceled it in 2021. And we were never really given a reason as to why they canceled it. So we have not had any city council interaction since, I would guess, the end of 2019.
May of 2019 was our last joint meeting.
Like that's something we should push for.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think everything that we're talking about is very valid, and I think it needs to be put into this matrix very precisely. COVID kind of upended a lot of things, so we've got to cut some slack in some of these areas. And prior to COVID, we were starting on a roll, and I remember like a conversation about $10,000 being spent to do some type of outreach, whether it was video or a mailer. And we were on kind of a good roll, and it was back when we were all in person. And unfortunately, this pandemic threw a wrench into everything, and it's just been a slow recovery. Maybe part of it too is that I don't believe council's even meeting in person, or maybe they are. It's just, it's difficult that a lot of these things are not in person. And I think it gets watered down a little bit with all the Zoom council meetings and commission meetings. So I think it's good that I agree with everything that Commissioner Robin wrote in this sort of memo. And I think we put it in the matrix, and I think we move forward. And I agree with Vice Chair Soto. We can't just suggest something, we have to have action steps for communication. Otherwise it's not going to get done. So we have to have something that we can sink our teeth into, that we know that we want, whether it be a mailer, whether it be video promo, whether it be better signage at all of these places. I've actually gone to James O'Jesse for indoor pickleball this summer, and there's no mention of Measure J, that floor was sponsored by Measure J.
There is not. In last week's city council, they discussed the shade structures and did not mention that it was a Measure J.
No, and they're not posted. So I've noticed those shade structures at Demuth and other places. I haven't seen, we spent money on those giant Measure J, street signs that should get stuck in the ground. Again, this is something where I've harkened back for. This is something that I've harkened back to back in my days living in Chicago. Mayor Daley was crazy about beautification of that city, and you would get a big sign that's made out of wood. That's the city of Chicago with their emblem, and it talks about how the city works and that this project is funded by blah, 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 blah. That's marketing. And that was huge back in the 90s and the early millennium in Chicago. We don't have that. That's what people see. That's what the community sees. And this is not brain science. This is simple stuff. And, we had those signs made. So, we need to get them out there, or we need to do something different. But, there's been lots of comments when I've been in at the parks regarding those shade structures. No one knows where it came from, how it, it's just like one day they were there. We made a big deal about that gym floor, no mention. So we go for the meaty stuff, the fire station, the downtown park, but for some people, they'll say, well, the downtown park doesn't benefit me. That's for tourism. They want to see the things that benefit them. They want to see improvements in our own parks that we use, pickleball, the dog park. Obviously, that's an issue. Sidewalks.
$1 million we spent on the high school auditorium. We never got proper recognition for that.
So
So-
I thought in the past, before COVID, that we had come up with, we had street signs. We have the signs that Sid that you have. And I remember one of the commissioners had like an emblem that we were going to use at all those locations. Whatever happened, what happened with all those?
I
COVID.
don't know.
So everything sort of stopped, unfortunately, is what happened. So, and I would just, I guess my assumption is we have to fill out this form right now because they want it by the end of September. So, and there's no other way to do this. And I would just like to add one more general comment to put in, is that Measure J is an oversight commission. And I have and the fact is that it may have been COVID last year, but it was still a record year in Measure J taxes, and there was $17 million taken in. And I don't think it should have been that city council should have not addressed the Measure J issues last year. There was plenty of things that were addressed. And I think, there may be some things that could be, deferred or left, but the tax is still being collected and they were still making budgetary decisions based upon the tax. And, during COVID, there was emergency, they took money out, put money back. They decided to do the downtown park. So the money was there. And I think part of what, if my view is to put into this visioning session is that Measure J is essential to have city council communication. Part is the visionary, but partly on an ongoing basis, because there's a great deal of money and public trust at stake in this. And maybe I'm overplaying it, but I think it, that's why I'm here. So, so I guess the only way to do this is to fill this in right now. Is that correct, Nancy? And Joel? Because
Yeah, the mechanics of how the matrix gets filled out, I'm not certain. I don't know if you're doing it live or the commissioner fills it out and then sends it in with the comments that you're hearing now. So I'm not really sure of the mechanics. I can't imagine you're gonna try to do it all right now. We're on the air, but I'd say.
Well, can we
fill it out and send it in to Nancy so she can disseminate and somehow we filter it and
we
put everybody's thoughts together.
can't discuss it anymore as a commission unless it's a public meeting. So as I understand it, so the options are either we do it now or we can take notes and then a committee could finalize it, if that is correct. But the rest of the commission would not be able to have input on it until the next meeting.
Well, I hear what you guys are saying, that you are all on the same page. So I guess we should pick two of the topics. One, I would include, obviously, advertising and social media. That's very important. Is that correct? Is that what I hear everybody saying, that they're not getting enough publicity, enough advertising?
Community outreach.
Yeah.
I would say communications both to city council, like with city council, and also to the community. So kind of multiple lanes, but it's still kind of our overall communication strategies and
So I said one
operationalizing
would
that.
be communication strategies and another would be marketing.
So can I suggest, is it possible that we take all these notes down and then maybe we could have a committee
Yes,
put it into the proper language to submit it?
yes,
Can I make a motion that we do that?
yes.
I would second that motion.
Is that okay, Chantel and Evelyn?
I think that is the smartest, most thoughtful way to do this. Have a committee with all the dialogue that's been had tonight, get it down there appropriate, maybe can it be sent out? We all say, yay, we saw it and it's great. And I would really support that idea rather than sitting here thinking about this. This is it's too long and too hard.
I agree.
I would second your motion after. Ms.
Can I make a quick comment too? So I'm ignoring the 21, 22, but for new priorities, area of focus, I feel like that's more of a positive area. So I would just suggest that whoever's doing this, those priorities would be more in the area. I was taking notes when you guys were talking, more about community outreach, because it is something that we're actively working on right now to do this application. So I think that is very big in that area. And then that we want to continue community projects and maybe even possibly more than $1 million, but that we want that to be, and maybe part of the charter, part of the language of what Measure J is about.
Yeah.
And then I think when we get into the weeds is more the critical organizational changes needed. That's where Commissioner Robbins' comments and what we talked a lot about, I think that falls into those areas. And that's more of an open-ended, that can be a big paragraph. Process
I actually think they're looking for the page very broad, I don't think they want to like to read through a whole paragraph. They just want to know, what are your top priorities?
Okay.
Like for instance, let's say community outreach, what will that do? Or communication, you need more open communication with the council. Maybe you want to add anyone at council liaison back. Or maybe it's marketing. What would marketing do? It would give you more outreach to the community.
Should we go through the actual form right now and just come up with some bullet points that then the committee could then separately formulate? I think that might be the best way to do it, because some of these things, we have limited space. We want to use each section as effectively as we can. They don't think they want a long document. And so I think if we choose the words carefully, then we can get it a little bit more denser in information. Should we go through this and make comments, and then we can go through and decide how we'll finalize it? Is that fair? Okay. So in terms of the description of the board and the commission in charge, I think we already have a written one in the ordinance of what Measure J is. So we can just take the city attorney's summary of that.
And I would just underscore the oversight piece.
Yeah.
Yes. So in the significant recent. Is that me? Oops.
So,
Sorry. Sorry about that. I don't know how to stop it. In the significant recent accomplishments. Oops. Hold on. It's going to keep going.
So where are we? We're at the top at significant recent accomplishments.
yeah, we're at the top. So a brief list of accomplishments from the last few years that we're most proud of.
Well, I think we had a very successful last joint meeting back in May of 2019, where all of our priorities were approved unanimously by council. I think that's a great accomplishment, and maybe we underscore that it hasn't happened since. And we haven't had that opportunity, and that can be followed up further down. But, that was an accomplishment.
I would also say the 5-year plan, which is really more an accomplishment of staff than us as a commission, but I think it has really helped us kind of think through how we're planning out and how this fits in with other needs. I think that's a real game changer of the year.
Yeah, that's fine too.
I would add, it's an incomplete accomplishment, but the accomplishment to date, the formalization of the community outreach application process, however, whatever that shortened version of it, but the work that the subcommittee did and the hard results that are at hand to act on very soon, I think that's a big accomplishment, because it's taken a transition from lots of talk and ambition to something that now is truly actionable after a handful of years have gone by.
If
It
I
could also
could,
be maybe an ongoing priority too.
Still is.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could also add, because if they're looking at other specifics, I think the focus on the parks, I think has
Yes.
been, without mentioning all the specifics, and obviously we include the downtown park, but we've had a lot of the projects that at least I think that we should be proud of are the ones that have been done in the parks, whether it's the shade structures, the James or Jesse, or the bathroom renovations, or
I wish they.
things like that.
Yeah, but it's going on and on. You go in, Turner, he's gonna take you, here, come on. Come on, you need to go.
So I've got the 5-year plan. Sorry, I missed the first one. The 5-year plan, the formalization of community outreach, the parks. Was there
The
anything else?
2019 joint meeting with the city council.
Okay.
And you were talking about the 5-year plan. I think it's something we started we're working on when I was on there. But one of those was like a 4-year plan to where we upgraded and analyzed bike routes, where we're missing sidewalks. So it was more public safety and pedestrian and bicyclers. And I think that was a good accomplishment.
Those are, but I don't think we want to get, as Nancy and staff was saying earlier, we shouldn't get into too much specifics. We got to keep it very 50,000 foot. And maybe we just scrap the May 2019. It's too far in the past. I think what you guys are discussing is more on the mark. And Commissioner Marshall, I agree with you, but I just don't, because then there's a lot of things that we can start to list, and I don't think they want to see all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be
You
very,
guys did accomplish a lot, and you're right. Where do you really begin?
I know, it's got to stay very 50,000 foot. And I think right now during COVID, those accomplishments that were just discussed make the most sense. And I say scrap the last joint because it's just too far in the past.
And in actuality, I think that we can easily pluck that out and drop the 2019 list, the successful list. I don't think anything's changed. There's still ongoing priorities, which puts that into a different paragraph.
Okay.
So if we're now to look at the ongoing priorities and areas of focus, they give 2.
Well, that sounds like that's our communications to our citizens and to the city council.
Say that again. Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Well, this is kind of what we should put, what we were kind of talking about, guys. I mean, this is, the priority was for the last year has been communication. So I think that's number 1, and outreach. That's part of 1. So communication, outreach, the rationale. We want to get Measure J out to the public. The measure of success, you guys created a template. You created a application that's almost ready to go. So that I think is number 1 priority.
I would say also a measure of success in terms of communication with city council is I feel like when our recommendations get to city council, and I forget what was the last recommendation that didn't get voted on, like there was just a misunderstanding of what was being presented. So I think maybe just, I don't know if it's like the speed in which things are approved or just kind of the general understanding of the recommendations that are coming to city council. But like there shouldn't be a delay of 1 to 2 months just because we're going back and forth, describing projects to each other from Measure J Commission to city council. So
they're asking to be specific about what we want in the 2022 timeframe. So what my suggestion would be, if we're looking at that, is to get approval on the budget, on the funds for both the last year and this year. And then a joint meeting, and then a clear understanding of where the 5-year plan that would be going forward. So that we actually can say these projects are approved and done. They're not done, but approved and moving forward. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So basically under the areas of priority for 21, 22 are communication and outreach, and then approval of actual from city council and staff of projects going forward. Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah.
The 2022 new priorities and area of focus. I don't think we should be repeat, otherwise we're wasting the space that we get on this form.
Right.
Well,
How
isn't
about social
marketing?
media and marketing?
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
where media and marketing go. And a budget and more, a more, uniform marketing effort from the city that highlights all Measure J projects.
Well, I would say it would be approval of the 5-year plan then, right? Does that
Yeah.
seem to would that accomplish that? Yes.
Well, this is for 2022, it's new priorities. So they're looking at more, I think don't we already have the 5-year plan in place? That was that fell under our significant recent accomplishments, I thought.
Well, they actually have not approved the 5-year plan.
Yeah, I think the significant accomplishment is reviewing projects in that way, where then we can kind of allocate for, several years out. But because it hasn't improved, maybe it's an ongoing one. For new priorities, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, is just like the family, or like the child experience in Palm Springs. So whether that's parks, whether that's Parks and Rec programming, it is very hard to do anything with children in the summer in this city that's not a fancy restaurant. And so I would love to see some type of assessment on what parts of Parks and Rec programming could be strengthened, or thinking of how Measure J can really focus, because that's something I've been noticing a lot, that some parks are jam-packed with kids and other ones stay empty, and I'm be really curious to understand kind of why certain families go to some parks and not others. And I can share more, but that would be something I haven't heard kind of intentionally talked about in many spaces throughout this kind of city governance. And so I would love to kind of see that raised up more.
I think that would fall under your application process when we get those back. I don't think we can specifically list that we want more children type activities, because that wouldn't be a large.
I'm saying like family engagement more broadly.
Right, but I think that would kind of fall more under, I think you would want to do something bigger, like I said, more or less marketing, and go back to what we used to do. Where are those little pavers, Joelle, do you know where those little stamps are that one of our commissioners brought to us?
I think we have them, or I think Don has them.
If I could expand upon what Naomi said, is, we heard also at various points in this meeting in the past about seniors and people from different communities, and I think part of what might be from a broader scale is ensuring that the projects of Measure J address a more diverse community, both age, family structure wise, and socioeconomic. If I hope it's okay, we hear about a senior that their activity is going to the dog park. That's not the person who is going to appreciate the downtown park, or something, or maybe not even road baby as much. So, and we have the family issue. I know we talked about the James O. Jesse playing pickleball and their thing. So I think all of these things tie into the common theme that there's a more diverse community out here, family-wise and socioeconomic, that the Measure J, that these projects should focus. And that's part of what I think our effort in going out to the community application was.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, I think the effort that we're doing to get community feedback for community initiative projects, I think speaks to that need, but I think is could also be, you know, an important theme that we think about when across all Measure J projects, which is many more millions of dollars.
Right.
I'd like to add, sorry.
Commissioner Robin?
Yeah, excuse me. I have wildlife in the background here. So if this is, if I'm in agreement with the commentary about the project lens, the funding lens, considering the diverse subsets within the community, specifically seniors and family and different economic positions to be able to enjoy what the city has. So in that vein, at least of my own notes in advance of the meeting, I think community safety is, at least this is on my mind a lot. Palm Springs is a different place maybe than it was just a few years ago in terms, through the filter of perceived safety, if not actual safety. The changes that maybe are directly related to the well in the desert location. A perception perhaps that this is a less safe community through violence that has been occurring. Maybe it's not statistically higher, but it feels higher. So from my personal suggestion for the commission is to put on this list of priorities, this filter, this lens of projects that enhance community safety in a way that aren't addressed elsewhere by the city's programs.
Mhm.
And that might be the benefit of more lighting in parks, and that therefore a Parks and Recs request for lighting actually has additional benefits beyond simply it's more energy efficient.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the safety was the other things that did come up in other projects in the past, whether, so that would tie in.
Again, whoever fills this out, if it's the communications subcommittee, I like just keeping it very general and 50,000 foot. So
Yes.
it could
Right.
encompass diversity, everything from our senior population to families to, whatever, and then maybe roll in safety in that. But I think we're all kind of eye to eye on this, and I don't know how deep we need to go into it, but I think we're all in agreement, and that it just stays kind of high level.
Yep.
I
Okay,
agree with Commissioner Gazan. I think we just say, that 50,000 foot is like, we want to address the needs of our diverse community. If you want to fill in from age to whatever, but I think you can just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I think it's important to include other things because diversity often is very narrowly interpreted. And the fact that whether it's, in our case, we're talking about, could be family structure, it could be social economic, it could be other things as well besides. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But keep it simple. I agree.
and I think it's got to be very community focused. I think as a commission, I don't want to be tourist focused.
Mhm.
Tourism gets all the money. They get all the attention. And I think, however that's written in here, it doesn't have to say that exactly, but that we are community driven.
Mhm.
This is not about the shiny penny downtown, because downtown will always get money thrown at it. But the community lives beyond downtown. We're getting pushed out of our village core to some degree because tourism is so large here. And I think we have to be very community focused. And that at least is important to me.
We still have to review the application and discuss that. Do you want to move on? Are we?
Let's
are
go,
we
let's
at a
go
good
on
point?
to activities that could be deferred, referred, or eliminated. Are there any suggestions for that?
I actually think no,
Mhm. I agree.
because everything has already been deferred, which is why the list has a backup to it.
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I think what we could mention here is that some structure in communication will, I think, ease, I appreciate Parks and Rec has come to us to speak. I think we've had I remember someone from Warm Sands once came, but like there should be just some structure so that way it doesn't feel duplicitous in terms of when people kind of pop in to give us feedback. And so I don't know if it's not eliminating kind of that type of interaction, but I think it would make it more efficient.
Okay, I think,
Maybe that's more of a process improvement. I might be
I think
jumping.
probably, yeah, I think that's probably streamlining that. I don't really know if there's any of these activities, I agree, that could be deferred, I think.
I think we just say none at this point, and I think,
Yeah,
what Naomi was saying could go under process improvements, and I think for critical organizational, we just have to do something very concise, paraphrase from Commissioner Robin.
yeah, I agree.
Improvement in communication with council, blah, blah, blah. And that's because they're going to be looking at a lot of these. And I think it just has to be short and to the point.
I think our major problem is that we want community projects, we want better communication with city council, and we need to market the efforts of Measure J. And those are the three main things that we've all talked about. And if we focus on that and keep it simple, it'll be very clear.
I agree. Yeah.
Who would like to be on the committee to finalize this? Commissioner Robin,
I volunteer.
That's a good idea.
I will volunteer.
If you need
Well-
somebody else, I will too.
Okay,
Perfect.
okay, so we will finalize this and we'll send it in, and we will meet after this, and that will be that. Any other comments on this?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so we're
Thank
gonna
you so
move.
much. I know it's a hard process in a short period of time, so I appreciate that.
Oh, I have a question, maybe for Nancy. What is like the structure that this is going to be done with the city council? Do they have like an outside facilitator kind of do this? Are they like, is there been any details as to how they're going to be compiling this feedback?
Not at this time. I know in the past, we have had outside facilitators and we've had department heads and council. They told us to leave our calendar open for like a Friday and Saturday. So when we find out, we'll let you know at the next meeting.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, do we want to have a review and discussion on the project survey form and the processing of the completed surveys procedures?
Application.
Yeah, I have Ms. Soto's done a great job here and I'll let her speak, but there was the dialogue last time. Does the council have to approve our community project? I thought there was two thoughts on that. One was we have sole right to decide. And because that comment is in the application. So does anybody know? Nancy, did you look into that for us?
No, do you remember, Joelle? I thought we just brought it to council in the staff report.
Right, and that's the way the other community projects, I don't think there was a council opinion on which community projects would move forward or not. I think once you decide, staff will bring it forward and present it to council as the community project selected by the commission. As such, I don't think they're going to get an option to not approve them.
They do or they don't? I'm sorry.
Per our procurement policy, we have to bring everything over certain dollar amounts to council. So we have to bring it to them. I don't recall them ever saying no to any of the projects in the past, but we do because our procurement policy have to bring it to them.
Yeah.
That's
However, everything that we had recently was removed, and there was some that would still fall under the community projects, so.
So whatever new list we come up with, we'll put a staff report together and bring that.
So going back to what we said in the beginning from Commissioner Robin was to was to memorialize that we have this, because I think there's been some back and forth with city councils from what I have seen, that in the past we would prove it, staff would present it, and it would move forward. I think it's what has seemed to happen is they want to wait until they have this visioning process session to move forward on that. So I think part of what we have to do is memorialize it, because I'm not sure that they're clear on that.
I'm not
Okay.
sure if they're talking, and Joelle can help me with this. I'm not sure if they're talking about the projects such as the five-year projects that we brought to them. That's what they want to discuss. I think we're okay to move forward with the community projects.
So can we take that piece out because it says it goes to the full city council for final approval, and we have that in there twice.
It does go to the city council for final approval again, because of our
Okay.
procurement policy. We have to get that approved by council before we can move
So we
forward
can-
with the projects. It's just
We need
a
that, okay.
procedural item.
That is procedural, right? And that
Yeah.
interpreting more like the individual types of projects that come forward. But as procedural, whatever community projects do get approved, we will bring before council.
Or council.
As a
And it's
commission,
mostly
as-
any projects, right, Joe? Any projects we have to bring
Right,
to
as a
council.
commissioner, Bernstein, or Chair Bernstein was mentioning that the council still ultimately can review, and at the time in the dais can either eliminate or reject projects. I think they still have that power. And if, I guess, you memorialize it, then that might change that position. But I think with anything that anyone does in the city, the city council ultimately does have the power to reject.
Okay, I remember we had that conversation. The only other thing is the criteria. The scoring criteria is not on the documents, Ms. Soto. And we thought that should go into the application so they know how it's scored. That's the only thing that's left
I
out.
thought the discussion ended that we would not include the scoring mechanism in the application. And we would just say we would be inviting them to present.
I don't remember us having to present. I thought they were just gonna send in their applications, and then we were gonna take the top they were gonna be sorted. We were gonna take the top ones, and that the commission was gonna meet and choose the ones that they thought were on the highest grids. Because I'm
No,
just
remember we
worried
were
that
gonna
we
have like,
we-
they were supposed to be invited. There's gonna be like themes
Mhm.
in the spring, and then groups were gonna be able to come and talk about it.
So I thought that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, thought the survey was going out in October, due back in November. We were gonna score it, get everything ready, and take a staff report back to city council in December. And I thought for the other five-year projects, then that's when we were gonna have more meetings and that type of thing and invite departments. And then that's when we have the joint meeting with council. But Joelle, please help me.
So I think, yeah, kind of mashing the two together there. So the community projects, the commission had established how they were going to do it. I don't recall exactly what your ultimate decision was. If you did, I do remember that the commission wanted to separate the themes and have them come in and talk about the projects. But I'm not certain at what point in the survey that happens. If you actually had, say, parks and you had 50 projects, you would narrow those down and then you try to choose from the top presenters, I guess, if you will, for that particular theme, and you would spread it out over several months. Then the capital projects are completely different. We would follow the normal process that we've been following in the past to bring those forward to council and the joint meeting. So I don't, Don, I think you might remember a little bit better how that ended up.
So Commissioner Soto is right. There was a version earlier on where this came before you as a body decided to go to like an outside consultant to score it. If we were supposed to score it in-house, that was how the process was going to happen. We would group it into themes so that you guys could review the projects and determine what that list was. Once we started talking about outsourcing that rating process, that kind of the need to have these like groupings because somebody else was going to sort through everything. And then you guys could just go straight to the cream of the crop per se, the higher scoring and just focus your energy on the highest scoring projects. But if you guys were going to do it as commissioners, that was a suggestion, was to group it into themes, give people an opportunity to explain the project and all of that good stuff. But I think from what I heard in the discussion, you guys wanted to move at a faster pace. And that's why the outsourcing thing happened.
It is in the original thing we wrote, but it's not on the piece that Ms. Soto has done. So I think we're good to go. Naomi, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I mean, so the application itself included the fall deadlines and then included the January through April piece. Well, actually, sorry, let me back up because I feel like I'm talking to 3 people instead of everybody. So there's 2 applications that are live. I made them on Google Forms, which is Google's version of SurveyMonkey, in which you can make a survey online and collect information. So there's an English version. Chantal was able to get me the application translated. I made a Spanish version. So there's an English version and there's a Spanish version live. And so the question that we're talking about is how much context to include around the timeline. So I had included the application. So the October deadline, applications are live in October. They're due December 2nd. January through April are these presentations. And then I think what we cut was the May piece because we weren't sure about that specific kind of component. So that's all done. All the questions that the application that you guys have seen before, those are all up there. And I think we mentioned this last month, but the way these forms work is it gathers information and it collects it automatically into a spreadsheet. So that way, the way we can look on it is in a spreadsheet form, all the responses already gathered. We'll have to do some consolidating from the English and Spanish version, but for the most part, I'm sure like 75% of them will probably be in English at least, if not more. And then what is...
Can I suggest something?
Yeah, please do.
I guess once all the projects are scored, we could still organize them into themes. So like, let's say there are 3 projects that has to deal with police and fire. So they would be invited to a meeting to further explain, so basically your time as a commission would be focused on, maybe 20 projects, and we could group them, every month have a different theme, like these are the park projects. And then that way people involved in the parks could talk about it. Maybe it's library projects, maybe it's transportation, roads, engineering stuff, but we could just narrow the projects, like maybe it's 4 projects a month or whatever the commission pleases. But, once we've weeded out and we're going to focus on, whatever you guys decide, and then they could be organized into themes for you guys to get more information so that by the time you have your meeting in May, you have informed information to make your recommendations to the full city council.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think the scoring still happens to determine like which projects are most viable to then hear presentations on. That was my understanding of the scorings versus presentations.
Right, and that's kind of where I was as well. Yeah, the scoring allows you to weed out projects that don't have any merit, and you narrow down the ones that do have merit, and you only have $1 million. So at some point, the presentations help the commission choose which ones will be funded this particular year. So that's the way it was set up,
right? It looks like it's good to go. Are there any other?
What? I didn't hear what you said.
It looks like it's good to go then.
Yeah, I think so. And we might decide like it's just been said, when we have groups together, and if we have concerns, we can invite them rather than having just everybody go through. If it's very clear and we have good statements that we need, we don't need to have this parade of visitors. I think that our meetings are long and tedious. And so if somebody really has well, because they need to be.
I think we'll have a better, make a better assessment when we actually get them in to determine.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, but going to your question, Linda, sorry, Commissioner Fritter, the ranking information is, I believe, not on there, and I just want to confirm that the commission's okay with that, or do we want to have it? It seems like it's everything, we can gather the rest of the information if we still have to kind of tweak the ranking. So my preference would be to leave it out, but I'm happy to add it back in.
I think our original thought was people needed to know how we worked and scored them. But at this point, I don't think we need to do that. If they want to know, it's there and they can see it on the old copy. But I agree with you. You're too close to getting it ready to go. I think we're good. I've read it several times. I think it has what we need, and thank you for your time in doing that. That's a lot of time.
Okay.
I think we're ready to go.
Do we need a motion to do that, or can we just go forward?
I move we accept the application and the Survey Monkey and okay, that's my motion.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
I would just add one correction. It's actually Google form. It's not on SurveyMonkey. It's on Google form, but.
The only question these applications automatically go out to every commission in the city. How are we going to distribute this? Because we said they'd be at all the parks and public.
Well, I think maybe we can jump on a quick call as the subcommittee with Nancy and Chantel and Evelyn, and then we can just make like a communication plan, and maybe we can get like a memo out to all the commissions and then any other organizations
I
that
agree,
need.
because today I thought about that, and we were gonna put hard copies at all the locations, but because of COVID, we still are restricted not to putting any forms and that such type of things on the counters.
Oh,
So
good.
we might have to put like, you could go to the library, or maybe they can ask at the location. So I have to reach out to the different departments and let them know if somebody needs an application, can you print it for them?
Okay, that's good. That's good.
So
I'll follow up with that tomorrow.
we have a motion and a second on the original. The original motion was to move forward with the application. Is everyone in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, application.
Good work.
And then just make sure that they get to the commissions. So, I mean, the city clerk has those email addresses. Or
Yeah.
what.
I agree with that. This is where we need communication, right? You know, really quick right now, so people know
Yes.
this is coming. It's a short turnaround time. Thank you.
Nancy,
very
can you
much.
send us some times to Sid, the subcommittee to just meet real briefly, just quick plan, and that way, if we need to divide and conquer or do any other
Sure.
follow-up work.
No problem.
So
Thank you.
thank you, then, Commissioner Fritter, Soto, and Craig, who has not had to go, for all your work on this. It's very much appreciated.
Well done.
Yep. We don't have any update on social media announcements, as we've talked about. That is an issue, and that's on our visionary session.
And I will make note, Evelyn will assist me. We're going to reach out to Amy tomorrow and see what the status of. I know we had to do an RFP for communication services, but if the video is here, then the video, we can post it on the Measure J webpage for Sid.
It would be nice if we could see it too, if the commission could see it.
Absolutely. If we get it on, we'll email everybody and the link so you can watch it.
Thank you.
Be nice to have a video about this application shown on channel 17.
We don't have, remember, we have to do an RFP for communication service.
Get out your camera.
However, we could ask that as part of the distribution that they include it on the video board that they put on the commission, on the city council meetings,
Right.
which is just a text page.
Yeah, absolutely. That would probably be another Amy thing.
Okay,
So if anybody wants to send me a follow-up email, what I'm supposed to get on Amy about tomorrow, I'll have a little meeting with her tomorrow.
I will do that. Are there any other commission member comments or requests? Okay, well, I will follow up with Commissioner Robin and Marshall about the, about finalizing the form and how we proceed on that. But
That's good.
if there's nothing else, do we have a motion to it? We're exactly at 7 o'clock to adjourn.
I motion.
I'll
Second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned at 7:01.
Thank you. Thank
Great
you.
you,
first
everybody. Well
meeting.
done.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.